result is that I see a lot of I get a lot of challenges when it comes to education. My name is Ahmed Elnaggar.
And this is Monday Legal. Good morning. Back again to one of the episodes of Monday Legal with my favorite Italian lawyer, Clotilde Iaia. Thank you very much for coming back.
Thank you very much for having me, Ahmed. I'm always happy to come and see you. How was your week?
It was very good. It was very busy. And I think this time of the year is the weather is getting nicer and nicer. Everybody's here in Dubai, and that's why we're very busy. So thank you for coming. Today, I want to ask you a very important question, because we get this question all the time as lawyers. Why do we need to charge per hour for many of our work?
Yes, the reason why we charge per hour is because, of course, time is a limited resource. And so because we have limited amount of time in our lifetime, because we're all going to go towards the same results, which is, at some point not longer being here, that's the only way we can calculate or we can value what we do and how much time it takes to, each one of us to be able to respond to a legal question or provide a legal opinion. I think it's just a kind of a unit through which we measure or we value the time that we spend on someone else's problem or solving someone else's problems.
Yes. In my perspective, it is very similar to what you said. And I believe we have no other commodity to sell. We don't have, smartphones to sell or cars that we put a margin on the cost of production to what we want to make as profit. We just have time. And based on the time that we spend studying and the experience we accumulate throughout the years, we make an assessment to how much I would like to make as an income, and I cut it down into days and into hours, so how many hours I would like to work. And of course, it grows by time and it grows by experience. That's why you see a junior lawyer hourly rate is much lower than a senior lawyer's hourly rate. And that's how we make our money and assess the value of our work.
Just going back to the value, of the hour. Right, correctly, you mentioned that a junior lawyer hourly rate fees won't be the same as the senior lawyer hourly rate. So maybe many people don't know that is because, of course, we as individuals invest a lot in terms of money and time to prepare ourselves, to train ourselves, to achieve or obtain certain certifications that allow us to work. And all of these investments that lawyers make into being prepared for their job are investments that you do because, of course, you want to get a return, right? So, and of course, as you said, this is what we sell. We sell a service. We don't sell a product or goods. This is our business. Our business is selling services. Although, of course, I'm also of the idea that there are certain services where I can foresee how much time my team will need to provide that certain service, and I can commoditize that service and sell it for a fixed amount of time, for a fixed amount of fees. Do you do that for some of your services?
Yeah, we do when a certain service is recurring, that we do like a company renewal or a drafting of an employment contract for a specific jurisdiction, or maybe a drafting a will of a client of a certain structure of a family. We can assess how much time that it takes. It can be 10 hours, it can be 12 hours, and sometimes 8. So the range is very, very close. So we can fix a price for that. We can, based on the amount of hours and the seniority of the lawyer who's providing the service. And in this case, we can put a fixed fee, and still in our agreements with our clients, we limit this service. I would say we're going to do this kind of service as long as it does not exceed 12 hours or it does not exceed 14 of billable hours, so that we know how much it takes. Because some clients want an explanation, a full explanation of the law in order for them to make a decision, and it takes
Of
tons
course.
of hours.
Yeah, it's always, I agree. And we always also include, even when we do, let's say, a lump sum fee, we always explain and add a disclaimer that is the case, provided that either, like, we try to limit our liability, of course. And so we say we will keep that rate provided these conditions are met, that you provide us the documents timely, that you are not delaying providing us documents, that you're not delaying providing us the information we need, because obviously one process can be done very fast if the client is very diligent and provides the support that the lawyers or the law firm needs to finalize that matter. However, my ability to timely deliver and also therefore economically deliver, it also depends on the client's ability of being smart in the way they use us. And so it's a training process. I think some clients need it to be educated. I find, for instance, with my fellow nationals, to them or some of them, it is really difficult to understand. Sorry, to my fellow Italian nationals, it is very difficult for them to understand why we need to charge by the hour, and or why we need to charge everything, all the fees, or why we ask for a retainer.
Yes, a retainer is one of the main topics. Plus, I think when we ever ask for an advance payment, especially we don't know the client, we don't have a retainer with them, and we're coming for an ad hoc service or a one-time service, they are surprised. They're like, why do you want to charge me now while you did not provide the service first? And for me, it's like, why do I have to provide you the service if you don't pay?
Of course.
Yeah.
So when I was using the word retainer, I was using it interchangeably with the fact that we used to say, I need a retainer, not in the sense that we have an agreement like for an extended period of time, but a retainer, because before I provide the service, I will ask in advance that money that I will need to ensure that I can deliver the possibly. I mean, we usually provide a quotation, right? And then that quotation can be, I don't know, 30,000 dirhams, for instance, for a certain service. Then we would ask in advance the full 30,000 dirhams. And then we would also say the moment this amount is no longer sufficient because, for instance, you ask for additional services, we will ask you to put us in funds again for the amount that we will then foresee that those services still will need those services will still need in terms of time for our lawyers to finalize the matter.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult sometimes for some clients to understand. But also, on the other end, it creates a little bit of a natural selection.
What do you mean by natural selection?
That, if a client is not willing to pay you in advance, chances are that he was ever going to pay you.
That's also true. That shows how serious they are.
Exactly. So if you really want to work with me, then I would expect, as a client, that you would respect me and would understand that my time is precious. And so you must pay for that time. And if I ask you that time, for me to be sure that you're going to pay me and that our relationship is going to work properly, then you must pay me in advance, because I know that if you don't spend all that money, I know as a lawyer, I have an obligation to return that money, and I will return that money that you haven't spent. But a lot of times it has happened to me, even with clients that had been my clients for 15 years, that they didn't pay their last bill.
Suppose I'm not a lawyer. I'm not your colleague. All right.
All right.
And I'm coming to you for a case. And I'm telling you, someone owe me some money, 100,000 dirham. I need your help to recover this money. And can you please accept to take a percentage out of the collection? Because I don't want to invest in the chance to get this money back. And I want you to work on success.
On success fee.
Oh, yeah. Because I don't know if this money is going to come back or
Right.
not. And I don't want to carry the risk to spend this money on legal fees. You told me you have a big chance. You should trust your judgment.
Right. I should trust my judgment. We do have cases, of course, like employment cases and or insolvency cases where I actually like to work on. The reason, however, for me, the success fee doesn't work is that this is simply not my business model. Although I do understand that there are other countries where you can have these as a business model and can work. However, we're not speaking about that collection of 100,000 dirhams. I think those countries where the lawyer takes the risk and runs with the case and tries to make out tries to collect the debt, whatever that might be, are countries where there is a legislation again to protect the lawyer to be able to obtain the success fee once the award has been adjudicated to the client. In the UAE, I think there is not much sense in doing that for a number of reasons. One, again, limited amount of time that a solicitor or a lawyer can dedicate to their clients. And we have an excess of work. I kept saying the other day, I went to an evening where all Italian lawyers were invited. And there were a lot of Italian lawyers. When I first moved here, I was alone. There were only two Italian lawyers in the whole of UAE. So when I went the other day, there were a lot of Italian lawyers, and everybody told me, "Oh, but are you guys all lawyers in the EU?" I said, "No, absolutely not." But of course, because we're well-regarded members of the community, they usually invite us to function or where new consular or diplomats are being introduced. Just because then they might need our connection or our expertise in some areas, and we can provide that, and especially if we've been here a long time. And also, if it is true that there are more Italian lawyers, it is also true that exponentially there is a much larger Italian population compared to the population of Italians that was here 20 years ago when I moved here. So I am actually a very busy lawyer, and I'm 100% sure that most of my colleagues are busy. So there is no shortage of work. And so because of that, why would I work for a success fee? Why would I take that risk? I'm already, as a lawyer, assuming the risk of and the same risk of an entrepreneur, because I have to pay my employees every month. Either I get money from clients or not.
Yeah.
I need to take the risk of the compliance and the governance and everything else that intakes in terms of cost of maintaining good compliance, maintaining good anti-money laundering regulation, training my employees against all the threats that come from money laundering, cybersecurity attacks, and so forth and so on, as well as maintaining confidentiality, complying with the GDPR and all other compliance regulations. So when you are coming to a lawyer like me or like you, the client doesn't realize that they're not just paying for our time, they're also paying for a full infrastructure.
Yeah.
The infrastructure that you need to make sure that the advice you're giving is safe, that the kind of assistance you're giving is also the right assistance that is required in that moment for that specific client. It also grants the client, and some of our clients really need us in the long term. It grants our clients that we're going to still be there the next day and the next month and the next year. And so for me, I personally don't work I'm not interested to work for a success fee, independently from the fact that I might believe in the case or not. And when clients tell me, "Oh, why, if you believe in the case, then you don't invest yourself?" the answer is also very, very easy. It's like, this is not my credit, this is not my money, and I don't need to work for you for a success fee. And I would not tell you to go ahead with the case if I don't think that I can actually win the case. I prefer not to take it because I like to win. So why would I drag you into a case that I think is not going to be a winning case if I don't truly believe that that case can be a winning case. I wouldn't do it. But again, some clients, even if you tell them, look, the margin of success of this case, they are really, really, really minimal. So we don't believe that you should go into litigation. They still want to go into and litigate. And so,
me personally, if you ask me, would I ever take cases on success basis? I would never do that, honestly, because a very simple fact. The work of the lawyer, especially in conflicts and litigation, is a continuous work with the client. So if
you're invested in it, you mean,
if I'm
cannot be objective.
It cannot be one person invested in it. I'm a professional. I do my work based on my knowledge and my experience. If the client himself is not motivated enough to support me with the documents, with the information, with the technicalities, with his memory, and putting his heart into the case with me, I will not have enough tools and enough information to win this case for him. So if he's not financially invested into claiming his own money, I would never take this risk. And when I'm risking my time, it's not only me, it's me, my accountant, my associates, my partners, all the
Your
infrastructure,
family,
my family. I'm risking all this. There is no point for me to take this risk when I have only half of the control, or actually less than half, because there are other factors like the judge, the court system, the prosecution, the execution. There's so many other factors.
So many factors.
There's no point for me to take any success basis. And if I treat some files different than others, because this one I have success fee with it, and the other one I have a retainer, makes no sense for me.
Yeah,
honestly.
I would say, honestly, I wouldn't do it because I wouldn't feel like I can invest that much time in a case where I know that I'm not going to, or where I have a risk, such a high risk. I will put more of my time in something where I know that I get paid because my client is paying me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so something a bit different though to that is those times where I do decide to do a pro bono.
Yeah, of course.
But that's what I always tell clients that are like, sometimes, I have like a big corporation trying to tell me, oh, just do this one for free. And I always say, sorry, but I'm not a charity. And why would you, like a massive corporation, wanted to get something for free from a tiny boutique law firm like mine? Do you guys really need to go around and ask solicitor or lawyers to provide you with a free bit or a free consultation? Oh, it's just a question. It's never just a question.
It's never just a question.
It's never just a question. And even if it is just a question, the fact that I can answer that question in 30 minutes instead of 3 days, that's why you're paying the big bucks.
Exactly.
Because I can answer to you in half an hour.
This also makes a little bit of a confusion for many people, because some of the clients would come and say, I want to tell you my story, and they spend 1 or 2 hours in that story, and then they realize that they are charged for the time they have been speaking. But from my perspective, it is time for me, whether you're talking, I'm talking, or I'm on the beach, it's just 1 hour or
exactly.
2.
Yeah.
It is the same for me as going out with you to listen to your story, or going out with you to do the work for you.
Absolutely.
It's the same.
It's the same. Other thing, I don't know if you have that transport. Nowadays in Dubai, it takes an hour to go anywhere, and then maybe another hour to go back. And then some clients, they want you to meet them at their place because they don't want to waste time in the car.
Of course.
So I said, I just want you to know, by the way, that transport, so me coming to your office instead of you coming to mine.
It's chargeable.
It's chargeable.
Yeah.
Because I'm still unable to do work in that hour that I need to drive to you and then back to my office. So instead of costing you an hour of my time, then you're going to pay 3 hours of my time. And some people are like, I didn't know you were charging for transport. And so, how do you think I can do it, make a living if I would be like in the car all the time, going from one client to the
Yes.
other, and they would get like, of course, amazing service, but I wouldn't be able to bring a living to my family. So it's like, I know it's painful because whenever we have to pay for something, and sometimes you feel like, right, I think for people it's psychological as well, right? If you buy this cup, you bought this cup, and then once you paid for it, you have the cup and you can hold the cup, and the cup is, something that you can touch.
Yeah.
When you pay for advice, on the other end, you pay for the advice, but you can't touch it. And so some people have that. I think they find it psychologically difficult to understand why they have to pay for your time and your advice, even if you're just listening or responding.
A lot of people would assume that lawyers would never have a problem to collect their invoices. It's not the reality. And my experience is very, very hard sometimes to collect our fees.
It is. It may be hard. As I was saying, we usually would, and I think in that many lawyers do the same, especially in the UAE. Although I'm often asked if this is practice, and I always to ask the full amount in advance, and I explain this is practice because unfortunately for us, collection is an issue, and that very often if we do any work without receiving the compensation or our fees prior to us providing the service, clients end up not paying because they say, but what have you done for me? Even though maybe you spent many hours to respond to questions and meeting them, and sometimes going out of your way to, try to solve their issues. So this is something that it is hard to deal with in terms of how do you collect, because sometimes, as I was trying to say earlier, when you have obtained a retainer, then maybe your service exceed the retainer. By the time you realize that you've exceeded the retainer, maybe you've already billed 10,000 dirhams more compared to the retainer. So you go back to the client and you say, please note that we billed 10,000 dirhams more compared to the retainer. So 10,000 dirham is not a huge amount above a retainer, let's say of 35,000 dirham, right? Because it's kind of average what you might end up billing a little bit more than what you expect. And always they come back and say, oh, sorry, but, I'm not going to pay that because it was, you quoted us this way. And then you have to go back and say, yes, but this happened because this, and that. And by the way, please refer to our terms of engagement where we explain how this works. So please put us in funds before we proceed with any further work. And so if you have any further work to proceed with, chances are they're going to pay you. And then you don't need to collect. And then you would ask a bit more so that you can cover further services. But sometimes it happens that retainer, you just went over like 5,000, 6,000 dirham. And then the client has received the services and decides not to pay. And then, especially if you deal not just with companies, but also with individuals, those 6,000, 5,000 dirham, if you multiply for 10 to 15 clients, suddenly is a considerable amount of money. So for me, collection is difficult when it's an amount of money that it makes no sense to go to court because it's so much. It's not just the amount of going with the client it's just even the time of yourself having to spend in recovering 5,000 dirhams. So it takes me less to find another client and bill 5,000 dirham to that client than wasting my time to go to the court. So it's going to take me 10 hours of my time, and 10 hours of my time is 30,000 dirham that I can bill to somebody else. So that's the difficulty for me to collect those small amount of money. So we're trying to always avoid that to happen. And still sometimes that happens, that you are left with a small amount of money that has not been paid. And then, of course, there is another painful subject. That is when you work with large corporation, then you have a retainer and you bill monthly. And then sometimes large corporation too can have liquidity issue. And when they have a liquidity issue, the first thing they cut is their supplier. And the first thing that happens is usually between those suppliers, what they cut is the payment of their lawyers. I don't think it's a very smart move, because in the moment where you are having a liquidity issue, the one consultant that you need to keep close to your heart
Is your lawyer.
Is your lawyer, because the moment then you ask me to help you somewhere where you can recover liquidity, I'm going to say, I'm sorry, but sorry, no, I'm not working until when you guys pay me everything that is due to me, and then I'm going to start applying interest rate. And then in those cases, of course, it makes sense perhaps to also make a claim and try to recover those amounts. On the other hand, what is the downside of suing your own client is that that client then is lost. And so it is not always worth it. Sometimes also I can understand clients may have a liquidity issue momentarily. So in that cases, I try to have some flexibility for a certain period of time. But then at some point, I also say, look, I need to stop billing you, because otherwise I'm only making your situation as a debtor to the firm worse. And this is also not fair to you. And it's not fair to us, because we can bill that time to somebody else. So it's a difficult topic. What do you do when somebody doesn't pay you? Ahmed, how do you deal with the problem?
As you said, I mean, there's always an element of partnership between us and our clients. And in some cases, we have a client of a one-time service. We really ask for most of the time. We ask for our fees in advance, because we still don't know the client very well and so on. But when I have a 10 years old client, I understand where they're coming from. I understand the background. I know if they are going to pay or not. Maybe they are late. Maybe they have a liquidity issue right now. In the end,
is an anomaly if they don't pay immediately.
Yes. The sensitivity comes when the client a little bit is acting in a non-logical way, that they think that I'm their partner. And in reality, I'm not their partner.
No.
I'm the business partner. And the business partnership is that we serve each other and we help each other. You bring me your legal business, I do it. You bring me your contracts, I draft it, or I review it. I safeguard your interests, but at the same time, you pay my bills on time.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of partnership we're working on. But I'm not part of your investment to tell me, oh, this investment didn't go through,
so I'm not paying you.
I'm not paying. Like, I'm not your partner. I'm not making economic decisions for you.
Yeah.
I'm helping you achieve your investment goals by safeguarding your legal interests. But I didn't invest with you. Don't hold me.
And you're not going to get the rewards that he's going to get. So it's not like you're not participating to that risk, because you're already, as a lawyer, have your own risks. The profession, our profession, has already a lot of risks attached to it. So we can take also the risks of somebody else, of our own clients.
It happens a lot as well when we receive claims for very small amounts. So a debt collection case, for example, and the amount is, I don't know, 20,000 dirham.
Yeah.
The legal work and the efforts that you have to make is probably very, very similar to another case of 20 million dirham.
Exactly.
The procedures, the drafting, the arguments,
but the reward
the time,
is much higher.
The reward is much higher for the client and for me.
Exactly.
So when the client come and they say, yeah, but why are you charging me that much? Because the whole debt is 25. That's an economic decision that you have to make. It's not going to make my level or my quality of work or the time I spend any lower or higher. Based on that. And then it comes as well to the assessment of the fees, because the client would say, okay, why are you charging so high when the debt is so high? then it comes that there must be always a balance between the fee and the claimable amount in general.
Well, sometimes, I explain, because if the claimed amount is higher, then your risk is higher. So you want to make sure that you're paid in the sense that your risk in terms of liability, right? If you, let's say, commit something that is you're not being diligent, or you miss a term and so you miss to submit some documents to the court, right? Your liability towards your client for missing that deadline would be much higher than a case of 20,000 dirham. So clearly there is an element, right, when we establish or estimate the amount of time we're going to spend into a claim of when we're going to try to recover 25,000 dirham and when we're trying to recover 20 million dirham. The amount of time and effort and expertise that you might want to invest as a lawyer into a 25K case compared to a 20 million case, it is different.
Of course.
Because your liability in respect to the two claims, your professional liability in respect to the two claims is different.
What are the elements that define the hourly rate for a lawyer is fair or not?
Right. So how can we determine if a lawyer fees are fair? First of all, somebody should look at the years of qualified experience. What qualified experience is the years since that person qualified, therefore passed an exam to exercise as a lawyer in their country of origin or in their country of qualification. And so depending on the years that person worked after the qualification, that is a good unit to measure if that person is sufficiently qualified to ask for that specific hourly rate. Another way you can assess if the hourly rate is fair or not is you can compare it to the standard hourly rates as that are established by the DIFC courts through directives on a year-to-year basis, and check. So my lawyer is post-qualification, 3 years post-qualification, has 3 years of post-qualification experience. How does that fare or compare with a lawyer that is being qualified for that amount of time and is registered with the to work with the DIFC court, for instance? If a lawyer, for example, is not established in the DIFC, perhaps is established outside of the DIFC, or has a law firm in another emirate, you might want to consider that lawyer's fees will be slightly lower, but don't think that they're going to be tremendously lower, because in any case, both companies or law firms based anywhere in the UAE have high standards of compliance with UAE federal law on anti-money laundering, anti-financing of terrorists, and
code of ethics,
governance, code of ethics, and so forth and so on. And so all lawyers need to abide to those, the code of ethics, the compliance, as well as any requirements that is coming from their bar or association or law society that they belong to or they're registered with in the country of origin or their country of qualification. So these are all elements that I would look at. I would also look at because sometimes, we have to choose lawyers for our clients. So sometimes my clients or companies ask me to get a lawyer in another jurisdiction, and they ask me, can you select a lawyer for us? And so I also interview the lawyers. I like to have a sense, even half an hour chat, to make sure that I have a good sense of the way of that person works, how he reacts, what type of, there needs to be some chemistry for me. And so try to see if you have a good chemistry with that lawyer. It's really not worth it to pay any amount to have to work with somebody that you really can't stand or you have no chemistry with, because you will never, even if he's the best lawyer for that case, you will never enjoy it, and therefore you won't work well and you won't achieve the same results. Maybe go for a lawyer that is slightly less experienced, but that will give you 100% because you get on well with them. These are my points. Do you have any other points?
I agree with you very much, and I think what you said, they're all relevant points. The market average rate, the years of experience, the practice area as well define a little bit the hourly rate. I agree with all of them, but I also agree very much that the price should not be the reason to decide whether you work with that lawyer or not. You have to have a chat or have a pre-consultation, like 1 hour consultation, to understand how this lawyer talk, how they walk, if they're giving you the right advice. Are they pushing you towards litigation for no reason? Are they actually trying to figure out the whole story instead of just taking your side for no reason very quickly and tell you, oh, we're going to do this and that, and promise too much?
Yeah.
Then, these are the things that you need to understand. And as you said, working with the lawyer, being able to communicate, be able to listen to is very important, because some lawyers don't even give you the chance to talk or give you enough room to explain yourself. And it's very important, because a continuous dialogue between the lawyer and client is really partnership until this project is finished, or until the relationship is terminated.
That's what I was saying. There needs to be chemistry. You need to be able to understand your lawyer, and you have to feel that your lawyer is listening to your voice, is listening to what you want to achieve, and is really trying to understand how can he or she achieves your goals. So yeah. So as a 20 years qualified lawyer, my recommendation to lawyers in regards to fees is to don't undersell yourself. Don't accept to do work for free. And I don't say that simply because it is fair that you get the right amount and you get paid for your work, but also because don't forget that you represent a profession. And as a representative of the profession, your behavior and the quality of your work and the way you present yourself does not reflect just on you, but it reflects on everyone, on everyone that is part of the profession of a lawyer. And on the other end, I'd also another recommendation is always to under promise and over deliver. That is your goal. So if a client comes to you, don't give them a super positive outcome potential. Give them the reality of what it is, and be kind of realistic on expectation. Because if you then bring the results to that client is going to really appreciate that a lot more than if you had overpromised and then under-deliver, which is the worst you can do for yourself. So yeah, in a nutshell, get paid and do a good job.
Yes. And one last advice from my side about the fees, and advice to my colleagues, lawyers, fresh ones and experienced one as well. Fees are not everything. I understand very well that this is one of the most important elements to keep us moving and keep us working. But you have to understand that if you charge your client so high, or if you charge your client for something that you know that they do not benefit from, the relationship will be broken. The trust will be broken. So when you charge your client, charge for the things that you believe is a benefit for them. If there's no need to file that case, please don't take them to court. If there's no need to do a transaction with a corporate M&A or whatever, tell the clients it is not a good decision, because the long-term relationship with your clients is much more important and much more valuable than any easy, quick, big win. Thank you very much. And this is your dose from Monday Legal. Thank you very much, Clotilde, for coming back to us.
Thank you, Ahmed, for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, and see you next week.